Our next speaker is Amanda Patin of SGS. Amanda graduated from the University of Arizona in 1996 with a master's degree in agricultural education, thesis in entomology. For the past 16 years at SGS North America, Inc., Amanda has designed and conducted research studies to improve current seed testing methods. She's developed new testing methods, evaluated mechanical damage caused during seed harvest and conditioning, and evaluated various seed amendments for both physiological and mechanical effects to the seed and seedling. Currently, Amanda is the Contract Laboratory Research Director for SGS North America. Amanda will be speaking about the various factors and various technologies for evaluating seed treatments. Amanda?
Thank you, Julie. Bonnie just covered the overall benefits of seed treatments, but what are the effects and the benefits for applying seed treatments to seed itself? So seed treatments themselves are expensive, and so you want to look at all the benefits that are possible. One of the things that is a benefit is uniform seedling emergence. Of course, the protectant capabilities for early season insect pests, as Bonnie mentioned, and the enhanced crop performance during the growing season. It can also increase germination and, of course, protect the seeds from the seed and the seedlings from seed-borne pathogens and soil-borne pathogens. But it also can affect delay in germination, uniform planting, and also allow safer handling. So as I mentioned, treating seed can be expensive. So why do we treat the seed? Well, it's mainly to maintain the seed quality itself. And factors that affect the seed quality, including decreasing the fungal infection, decreasing insect feeding, decreasing the amount of seed coat damage that can occur, and also limiting mold growth and insect activity during storage. Over the last 20 years, seeds have become the delivery mechanism. Not only has it come from outside the seed like we're talking, but it's been inside the seed, including input traits such as herbicide tolerance, insect resistance, traits that decrease the effect of drought, increase yield, and also allow better nitrogen uptake. Inside the seed, output traits have also been enhanced, including modified oils, protein, and starches. While outside the seed, we're trying to apply micronutrients, the nematicides, insecticides, systemic fungicides, and then protectant fungicides, colorants, biologicals, and we keep trying to increase what we need to place on the outside of the seed. So with seeds as the delivery system, and the preferred delivery system because of its ease and safer use in handling, we try to put on the seed all of these nutrients and biologicals, the polymers, the colorants. For each seed type, that means that there is a limited amount of real estate or area on the seed that these treatments can be applied to. So we want to figure out the most beneficial way to apply the seed treatment to the seed, to apply the different characteristics that are involved in the use of the seed treatment, including polymers and colorants, and the best methods to apply these. So there are several different types of seed treatments in use today. Coatings, pelleting, and film coating are some of the most popular. Coatings and pelleting of seed treatments are widely used on small seeded vegetables and different small seeded species. Also on seeds that have lots of barbs or different barriers on its seed coat that limit the ability for it to move when planting. Coated seeds have a thin layer of material such as clay or some sort of silicone or dichotomous earth that is applied to the surface to make the seeds larger and easier to handle. The coating, however, does not change the shape of the seed. The shape of the seed would remain the same. Seeds are coated to make them easier to handle, such as delivering the chemistry or improving the soil contact, or to inoculate the seed with different types of microbes. The exact composition of the coating material, however, is safely guarded by the companies who develop them. So another type of seed treatment would be a pelleting. Pelleting coats do increase the size of the seed, but they also change the shape of the seed, typically making it a round shape, making it easier to handle and plant in particular types of seeders, or to utilize belts or discs that have specific size holes. To make identification easier, the coated seeds are often color-coded so that the cultivar or type are not mixed at planting. Many of the different types of coated seeds or pelleted seeds end up being mixtures, and then they have different types of colorants in there, but in some cases they do not. One successful planting treatment, which it splits when water is applied and is hydrated, allows the radicle and the shoot to emerge and doesn't limit the oxygen availability as the seed emerges. Film coating is the most often used coating for larger seeds and in larger seed systems. Many of the coating materials, however, do produce lots of dust, and the film coatings can be made of similar materials that are used by pharmaceutical industry. Film coatings are water soluble and are often dust free when they are applied in the water themselves. So those materials that are used in the film coatings that are similar to pharmaceuticals end up creating lots of dust. When you apply it into the water-soluble solution and it goes into solution, then it doesn't create as much dust. However, when that coating dries, you can create dust. So now that we have a new product, so say you're a company that has a new colorant, a new polymer, a new biological, new micronutrient, a new type of fungicide, active, or an insecticide. Sometimes the companies are very rehearsed in what they do for their products, but in many situations, the companies are taking products that they know are polymers that work in other industries or colorants that work in other industries, and they now want to apply it to seed because they feel that that's a great industry to get involved into, and also because their product has maybe some enhanced ability to perform a solution for something that's happening in an agricultural industry. So the first thing you want to do is determine what the product is for its function. Is it a dust reducing agent? Will it increase slippage or decrease slippage? Will it be a sticking agent? Will it enhance the time dry? Is it a nutrient supplement? Is it a colorant, a fungicide, insecticide, or a microbial enhancement? With that, then, you have your product. Say you take this product and it is one that reduces dust. So now you have a dust reducing agent that you want to apply to a market. So you have to narrow your market because there's a lot of different seed types out there. And in most cases, when you're selling to the seed industry, you'd like to have a product that you've tested on the market that you want to go into. So do you want to go into row crops, vegetables, long grasses, native seeds? So you evaluate which market you're going to go into. So for your dust reducing agent then, you also now have a market that you've chosen. Say it is row crops. So that'll include corn and soybeans. So you want to evaluate its usefulness based on its function. So if you have a dust off agent, you're going to want a dust reducing agent, you're going to want to evaluate it for dust off. But in the situation with dust reducing agency, you typically reduce your flow and your ability to plant the seed, and sometimes you affect your dry time. So then you have to evaluate that usefulness and then look at the different mechanical aspects that are attributed to it. So then you also have to determine if you can actually even apply this product to the seed. Can it adhere to the seed surface? So if we have a dust reducing agent that we're going to apply to row crops, we would pick maybe soybeans or corn to start out with. Soybeans are typically more sensitive than corn seed. So we would apply this product, say, to the seed surface of a soybean and see how much we can load on the seed. We can also determine if we add this product with another product, if we're doing an accurate application. And then we can look at things as observational things, looking at how well the seed treatment covers. Then as we apply the product, we also want to look at whether or not this product affects the function of the seed. Well, you may have a great product that covers the seed, reduces the dust, but when you apply it to the seed itself, the seed cannot absorb water. Then you don't have a seedling that can emerge. So you want to evaluate whether or not the seed can still function. So if you apply it at various rates and determine whether or not it can still germinate normally, and also to evaluate it under stressful situations to determine if the seed can take the chemical and process it through its system and not do an adverse effect onto the seed. You also want to evaluate for storability. When you're looking at the seeds themselves, you can look at germination at an initial point in time, but in most cases, seeds are treated and stored for an extended period of time. In the case of soybeans, it wouldn't be more than one growing season. However, if you treat the seed and then store it and then take it out later to plant it, if you haven't evaluated the effect it has on storage time, you may be in for a surprise. It may have decreased the germination. Then you also have to evaluate the compatibility of the product. The product would have to be compatible with any other seed treatments that you're going to apply. This is very critical for things like dust-reducing agents and polymers and different types of colorants, because you may have a product that may do perfectly well on the seed, apply to the seed, not harm the germination, but when you turn around and apply it with other products, there's an adverse effect with the chemical mixing. Also, you may end up having the product itself not adhere properly to the seed. So typically in a situation where you're evaluating a R&D product, you have a very small amount of the product. And in this row crop experiment, we're going to actually apply it with the Hagie treater. The Hagie batch treater is a treater that spins and simulates a treater that would be used in a large facility, but it's in a small batch quantity. This bowl that's being shown on the screen right now is a large Hagie bowl and can contain 300 grams, which for corn you'd never want to treat at that level because it doesn't allow the movement because of the weight of the corn itself in many situations. You would apply a slurry, as Bonnie had talked about, that would be either ready to apply, but in the R&D situation it would be typically something with a colorant to make sure you can see that it's applying across the seed, and then water-soluble solution, and then your product. The seed treatments are generally mixed with water, and it fits into the system of agriculture. There are other solvents that can be used and are included in mixtures when the product goes out. But in most cases, when you're taking the chemical and applying it into the slurry, it's mixed with water. And then typically it's using a rotary or a drum mixer. As the seed product is applied, it should dry quickly, and that's because it goes right through the system, right through the processor, and into the bags. And so you can't have wet seed. Of course, water initiates germination in many crops. It's typically seen in wheat seed if you apply too much water that you'll have sprouting before the bag arrives to the farm. So as you're treating the seed, you want to look at the cover and the appearance, the tackiness, and the dryness of the seed. In this example, the raw seed is on the left. It's what the seed looked like before anything was applied. This is a nice clean seed. It doesn't have any what we call bees wings, which are part of the attachment, a part where it attaches to the cob. And then on the middle section there in the picture, the even coverage that's seen, you see a nice clear coat straight across. And on the right-hand side, this is one where there was a polymer that was causing blotchiness here. You have your spotty section and you have some graininess that appears. This is not a nice, neat, even coverage. Now in our example that we had talked about, With the soybean itself is a difficult seed to treat because the different varieties have different characteristics to their coatings, making it to the product apply differently to the different types of soybeans. So after it's treated, you've looked at the stickiness and the appearance, you want to look at the flow of the seed itself. You may have a great product that goes ahead and does what it's supposed to do in our dust-off experiment. We say it reduces the dust, it applies to the seed, we go ahead and put it through a flow meter, and there's various different types of flow meters out there, but it's basically a funnel that allows you to time the drop and the speed at which it drops, and to observe whether or not any bridging occurs in the seed itself after it's been treated and as it moves through the process. So to see if there's anything going to happen when the seed flow goes through the funnel, and then that simulates the hopper planting method and movement of the seed. The European Union has determined that the Heubock meter needs to be used for dust-off evaluation. So the United States has kind of adapted the Heubock method as their dust-off evaluation. So what we're doing here is in the Heubock meter here, there's a drum. The drum rotates. There's a vacuum pull. There's a pre-weighted filter that's placed at the end of the vacuum fill, and as the seeds rotate and are agitated, they produce dust. That dust is pulled through and lands up on the filter. In a seed treatment that has control of the dust off, you have a low dust setting, and then on ones that do not control the dust off, you'll have a much higher rate of gram lay on the filter itself. So these filters would be weighed afterwards and determine the amount of dust that comes off of the 100 seed gram weight that is in the drum. And this is how the dust off is determined. The plantability also needs to be evaluated. We'd use a planter unit that is right off of a planter from the field. We have different inside this chamber here. We have different discs that can be applied. We use a precision planting meter that allows us to evaluate the skips and multiples and see singulation. It also allows us to see with the 1,000 seed drops if those drops are accurate, if they're in a line, if they're dropping too far apart from the settings. So as the plantability test is utilizing the planting meter, it looks at the seed movement through the planter, and it shows us what the effect of the treatment is going to be on that seed. Also, when we look at compatibility of a product, we want to look at current market products that are out there or standards in the seed treatment so that we can perform the different tests and look at the different formulations to make sure that there's no issues with the compatibility. So in this situation, there's no settling with the ingredients that are included. That's the middle picture. On the right, you look and you see product settling. Now that's a problem with compatibility, especially when you look at the left and you've screened it through and there's particulates. So as you're looking at the compatibility issue, you want to make sure that even though it may look like it's well blended, you want to make sure there's no particulates coming out. You also want to make sure that the seed treatment itself isn't settling, because in this situation, more than likely that's your active sitting at the bottom. So after you've determined the mechanical and the use and the function is acceptable, then you're going to look at whether or not it's safe on the seed. So we typically do this with seed germination testing. We perform it through multiple points in time in the product development. We may start with beginning just seeing if it can apply and then performing a germination test and making sure at that point it's not. And then you want to look at it when you're mixing it with other products. And it's necessary to determine that the product will not cause any decline in the standard germination of the seed. So as we perform these standard germinations under ideal conditions, we also want to look at how the seedlings are looking as they grow, if they're absorbing anything that would cause an abnormal growth on the seed, a stiffening of the roots, a growing of the shoot, making it look bloated and fat, or different types of blockage that are shown by decay on the seed itself, where the product isn't being metabolized correctly by the seedling and is causing an abnormality or a stoppage of development on the seedling itself. We also want to evaluate the seed under stressful conditions, and this is important because the seed itself is respiring more rapidly when it's stressed, and so it has to be able to metabolize the products quickly. And so if it can't metabolize the products, if you're going to have an issue, it's usually going to show up in your stressful conditions, like a cold, wet spring or a really hot, humid condition. So as we look at the metabolism and the stress of the seedling, it helps us to determine if there's going to be issues later on in the field. So there are some germination methods that can be used. And most of the time we follow a set of rules which are governed by the Federal Seed Act. There's the rolled towel planting. There's a tray planting method. As we evaluate the rolled towel, we have the seedlings coming out. We look at the evaluation as the seed. This is a nice graphic down at the bottom of this bean. It's showing us the development as it goes. Now we wouldn't probably ever cut the bean like that, but it really helps show where the embryo is and where the shoot and the root are emerging. We also can evaluate the germination in different types of soil types. A lot of times this is really important when we're dealing with some of the biologicals and the micronutrients that need the soil there in order to perform their proper function or to activate. Along with germination testing, we want to look at storage intervals of the seed safety. So we want to look at the different types of seed. With the soybean, we were talking about doing at least one growing season, so maybe up to 12 months. But with corn, you can store corn for a greater amount of time, at least 2 years, sometimes 3, depending on your storage conditions, if they're ideal. And then for like wheat seed, you can store for a lot longer time as well. And so you want to store through time. So perhaps you'd test a corn or a soybean up to 12 months for soybean, 24 for corn, and maybe 36 for wheat. And you'll look at it at different intervals through time, depending on your product and how fast you need it through your regulatory system. It's critical to determine that the product will not cause any toxic symptoms or decrease the germination after being treated to the seed and then stored for a period of time. The shelf life storages then will evaluate the products on the seed, the standard, utilizing standard and vigor germination methods through time. It can also look at the product efficacy as well. If you have a biological, you can take that seed and grow out the biological in like a Petri plate method and determine your life of your biological. So here's an example of some corn phytotoxic symptoms. We have the decay that I was talking about, the shortened, the stiff root. Here is the seed shoot itself, where you have some bloating where it doesn't look normal. And here's a normal soybean in a germination method. Now you'll notice that the hypocotyl is very extended. This happens in germination because the lighting isn't as ideal as in the field itself, where you have lots of lighting. So as you're looking here, you've got an extended hypocotyl, but here's a toxic symptom. We have the seed itself decaying. This is where the blockage has occurred, right here, where the point of attachment for the soybean, and the chemicals themselves are binding and causing the process of the plant to slow down, decrease, and not be able to function. In some situations, you can get past this and grow out, but you really don't want to keep, you treat this as a seed treatment for your soybean to say, oh, okay, we can grow it out further. In this case here on the right, you can see where it's kind of bunching up, but it's going to grow out of this, but it's going to take a lot of time and cause a lot of slowing. So after we've done the evaluations and done all the seed treatments, we want to look at whether or not the seed treatment application is adequate, if it's really applying at the rate we think it is. And so for active ingredients and insecticides and fungicides, we can use a HPLC piece of equipment that allows us to look at the chemicals and know whether or not we reached our target. In our case, we typically use a bulk extraction to verify. So we'd count out 50 seeds or 25 seeds depending on the seed size, extract in a known solution, run it through the process depending on the chemical, and run it through the HPLC to see what the actual active was applied. As you can tell, there's a lot of different things that go on in seed treatment evaluations. You have to be able to have pure seed to start out. You have to look at the outside of the seed, the inside of the seed, and different areas. So it takes lots of different functions as you go. So to evaluate a new seed enhancement product, you want to create seed safety trials. You want to look at these protectants, polymers, and coatings and evaluate them for performance and storability. You want to look at the dust off of that seed treatment. You want to look at plantability, flowability, the dry time, your compatibility with other actives and other items that you're going to add into the slurry, your speed of germination testing, and your vigor and dormancy evaluations. Many of our rules come from the Federal Seed Act, which are from the Association of Official Seed Analysts rulebook and guidelines. So thank you very much.